Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show, where we celebrate every single day, and then and with an expanded market into the Jackson and Delta markets these days. We'll be adding more days and more markets as we go forward. But we celebrate the leaders, the people who are working so hard to make Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. And I tell you, I'm really thrilled about expanding into Jackson and into the Delta markets. Obviously, we all spend a lot of time in Jackson if you're involved in the community at all, because it's our capital city, and it's important to all of us across the state of Mississippi. And then I have a place up in the Mississippi Delta, so I love spending time there. I talk about it all the time on my outdoor show on Mondays, but the Delta is a special place, and there's so many wonderful people there. The farmers there, for example, have had one of the best harvesting weather situations they've had in a very, very long time. And the yield is up, and I think it's terrific. I mean, farmers have to deal with some tough situations, man. So when they have a good harvest season, that's really, really important. I was up there last weekend. I'll be up there again this coming weekend because we're preparing for this hunting season. And I enjoy the hunting, but I really enjoy the times when we're not hunting, the times when we're preparing the food plots and spending time together as a family, and have my closest friends engaged in this little family hunting club that I put together. And it's great to be there. We spent some time at our farm in Chula, actually a couple of farms in Chula this past weekend, and went over to Big Daddy's Soul Food and Barbecue there in Chula, and spent some time with OJ and had some of the best chicken and ribs you can put in your mouth. But the Mississippi will never ultimately arrive as a city or change its standings until we can really address the challenges we're having in the rural areas of Mississippi, like places in the Mississippi Delta. But like I've said many times on this show, 51% of Mississippians live in rural areas. And what's unique about the census data that came out on the most recent census is that, unlike other states where people really work hard to get out of the rural areas, in Mississippi, people kind of like to stay in the rural areas. So when you start looking at the healthcare challenges that we're having in the state, I know the governor made an announcement the other day about some changes. I consider it a tweak. I don't think it's a move, a move in the direction we need to be going in. I strongly believe that we've got to have a serious conversation in the state about Medicaid expansion, and I'm conservative. But the reality is that we're saying no to upwards to $1 billion a year. Obviously, there's a role the state has to play in that. It's not all free money. But when you consider the number of hospitals that have had to close and the challenges that they're having, and I often ask people, I said it last week on my outdoor show, if you're out in the rural areas of Mississippi, I want you to contemplate what would happen if you were in an accident and what would be the situation. And too often the answer is not a good answer. And so if Medicaid expansion is not the solution, it's a contributor, because there are so many working poor in this state. I think what we've got to do is re-engineer the healthcare system in Mississippi. We have to redefine the relationship between what are going to be triage facilities strategically located through the states that could be hospitals, for example, and the trauma centers. We have to really tightly connect that and integrate that. And there are big changes that need to be happening. So that's why I think we've got to take an effort like we did after Hurricane Katrina, take the politics out of it. And as John Hairston, my friend who is the president and CEO of Hancock Whitney, said, go from the point of view of financial, go from the point of view of looking at healthcare, and go from the point of view of economic development, and let's go at it in a bipartisan way, and let's find this issue. Too often, even in the most recent move by the governor, it's still very political, and I think when you get politics involved, you don't have everybody at the table, and we need to get everybody at the table, like Governor Barbour did after Hurricane Katrina. It's got a quick quote I want to share with you, and then we'll move to our guest for today. Got a great guest that we'll be spending the entire show with. This is actually from John Wesley, who is the English cleric and a theologian and evangelist. He is one of the founders of the Methodist Church, for a matter of fact. But I think this applies well to the kind of people that I come in contact with on this show on a regular basis. It certainly describes our next guest. But here's the quote from John Wesley. He said this: "Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all of the times you can, to all of the people you can, as long as ever you can. And I'm pleased that we have so many people in Mississippi who are really take that approach to their lives and their work in the community. So I noticed we had a little blip on the Wi-Fi, but we're back up and running. And so let me move now to my very special guest, someone I look forward to getting to know better on this show. I've enjoyed getting to know him by reading about him and watching his social media presence. But it's Jeff Good from Mangia Benet.
Well said. You get a B+ on that. Mangia
Bene. There you go. Italian for eat well. And your restaurant group, you have Bravo Italian Restaurant, of course, Broad Street Bakery, and Mookie's New York's Pizza and ice cream joints. Great story behind all of that. But we're gonna talk about your business for sure and what it's like to do business in Jackson these days and your amazing work in the community in Jackson over many years. But we're gonna get to know you better to start out with. But listen, I just want to welcome you to my show, Jeff.
Thank you, Ricky. It really means a lot. And that wasn't a Wi-Fi blip. That was a user error. I was trying to close a window and I closed the wrong one. So that won't happen again. Hands up. I won't touch the computer.
Hey, listen, you heard what I said at the beginning, though. There are so many people that are working so hard across all and every single community. I don't care how micro you get. There are going to be people in that community that are working hard to fill gaps. They're doing incredible work. It may be through nonprofits or just community work through chambers, for example, or they may just be lending their hand as a volunteer somewhere. But gosh, man, I loved reading about you and understanding your incredible commitment over a number of years to the community. But we both have had the opportunity to rub shoulders with some incredible people who have really made this state work, and they're working every day in the trenches, and they don't look for any kind of recognition. Right. And that's been one of the cool things about being involved in the community as much as you have, isn't it?
It has. And I'm an outsider. I moved here my senior year of high school from Salt Lake City, Utah, and went to my senior year to Murrah High, public high school here, and then to Millsaps, and that's how I came to Jackson. My dad was the dean of students at Millsaps. So to be an adopted son, I'm 60. I just turned 60, so I've been here for now 42 years. So certainly I'm a Jacksonian. I've just tried to grow where I was planted, and this city and this state and the people within both have been very good to me, and I've just tried to return that favor.
Well, you had the opportunity to marry your childhood sweetheart, and you have two daughters. One actually lives here. The other one in Tacoma, Washington. Now, look, we've got three kids, and two of our three live in coastal Mississippi, and the other one lives in New York. So, unfortunately, we can't always bat 1,000, you know.
Well, she got pulled away by an Air Force pilot that she met. She was teaching school here in Jackson while working on her master's at Johns Hopkins. She did Teach for America, and she met a Air Force pilot. It was stationed at Columbus, and he graduated, and he's been placed up at McChord Air Force Base, and so the two of them started their lives up there. We're very excited for them. She's teaching school up there and doing great.
It's a great community. I used to be part when I was a publisher. I was part of a company called Knight Ridder, and Tacoma, Washington was one of our sister newspapers. Yep. And she's got to like it there. It's like it's completely different than Mississippi. It's completely different than Columbus.
She could get on your outdoor show. I don't know that I could, but she and Pat are doing an awful lot of really exciting things out in the Pacific Northwest. So it's a great opportunity for her right now.
Yeah.
And my daughter Carly, who is here in Jackson, she could spend some time talking about her new golf game that she is trying to undertake. So she's enjoying the fair weather that we have here and learning how to swing a club.
Jeff, do you golf?
I do. I started that 5 years ago. And one of your compatriots in your industry is the gentleman who helped me onboard and helped take me from 120 down to the high 80s, and that would be Wyatt Emmerich.
Wow.
So Emmerich
yeah, I know Wyatt very well. Yeah.
He's one of my best friends, and he was extremely patient with me, and we built out a group of about 26 guys. We all belong to one group, the Randy Watkins Golf Group, which is 3 golf courses here in the metro. And every weekend there's a game, and if you can sign up for the tea time, you put yourself in there, we mix it up and we play. It's wonderful. It's been tremendously helpful
I have
for me.
Tremendous respect for Wyatt. In fact, we served on the Mississippi Press Association board together for many years. Along the way, early in my career, his father tried to hire me actually at one point. So I told Wyatt not long ago that saying no to his father was one of the smartest things I ever did, because what happened after that is it gave me an opportunity. I got sort of underneath Roland Weeks's wings, and everything in my career kind of took off after that. But, who knows how it would have all turned out. Hey, when we come back on the other side, we're going to continue our conversation with Jeff Good, who's a restaurateur and entrepreneur and very active community leader in the Jackson area. And we're going to talk more about what ultimately led him into the restaurant business. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show. I'm really thrilled to have my new friend Jeff Good with me today. He's a restaurateur in Jackson, and he is very active in the community. And I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that for a few minutes. Coming back to the John Wesley quote, let me read it again. I want you to tell me what it means to you. Do all the good you can by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. Boy, do I get that. What does it mean to you, though?
I think that, popular culture has distilled that down to one line from the Spider-Man movie, which is, to those that are given great power, there's great responsibility. I started as a janitor when I was 13 years old, working in a printing shop back in Salt Lake. So when I was in middle school, I would take a public bus down to 9th Avenue and go to work at Printers Inc. every night. And I haven't stopped working since. I've been somebody who has had the experience of coming through manual labor to the service industry, and now am in the what would be referred to in our community as the ownership class, the executive class. And that trajectory has really informed my life. I also was raised in Salt Lake City, Utah. I was not LDS, so I was somebody who was different than everyone else. And then I moved here my senior year of high school to the Deep South. I'd gone to school with 3 people of color my entire time in Salt Lake, because everyone was blonde and blue-eyed. And I went to Murrah High, and at that point, Murrah was 65, 70% African-American, 30% Caucasian. So, and I'm in the Deep South, and there was that whole just tremendous, tumultuous change that and I'm just a kid. I'm a 17-year-old trying to find his way. And so having had the life experiences that I have, and now having had a chance to ascend to a position where I'm accepted as a member of leadership in our community, I have a voice that is able to resonate when I share information publicly. And I also have a voice that resonates very strongly within my organization, because I'm the boss, so what I say, oftentimes goes. I really have learned that I need to be careful about how I use that. Again, popular culture might call it privilege. It is an agency that I have that can be used for good or evil, and I choose to try to use it for good. But we're all challenged folks, and we all have stressors and anxieties and prejudices that come up, and we, it's easy in my town to just not really understand why. Why is it the way it is? How did we get here? And I think that past is always prologue. I moved here in 1980. But I think if we go back to 1940, 50, 60, 70, 80, there is a trajectory of decisions and the ways that things were decided that got us to here. And that's the same thing at the county, the state, the national level. We're all products of our past. I really appreciated your comments at the top of the hour about Medicaid expansion. I'm a Democrat who's pro-business, so I'm a little bit of a weird agent here in Mississippi, but I'm really not, because I remember as I started in the restaurant business, all of the leaders that would come out to eat from the Senate and the governor, the business-friendly Democrat, just like the business-friendly Republican you work with, Haley Barbour, there is an area for compromise and for listening. But we are really, really polar. And I live in Jackson, and I'm in an 85% African-American city. The 25% of my population is at the poverty level, and a school system that has shrunk from 33,000 to 18,500, a population that shrunk from a high of 205,000 to a current count of 145. You mentioned the census. Our city has been under a lot of stress. And so the good that I can try to do is a couple things. Number one, I can have a business that employs people that live in Jackson and tries to meet them where they are. And, this post-COVID group of high school, college age kids, they're different. And there's a lot of real anxiety and just a little bit of dysfunction and disinterest, and there's a lot of wearing emotions on the sleeve, so things can become highly combative quickly. So there's some extra effort there to try to teach them hospitality and grace and care. Number two is I can run a business that provides a service to the community, a divertisement, a place to enjoy food. Bravo Broad Street and Mookie's are fabulous restaurants that serve great food in our attempt to have wonderful environments that are refreshing. So when you come out to eat, it's not just putting food in your mouth, you're walking away with something that's meaningful. And then, the third part is economic development. I mean, we pay taxes, we pay rent. If you want to have Highland Village look nice, people have to pay rent to have the owners of Highland Village make Highland Village look nice. Same thing for the district. Same thing for Banner Hall. You want to pave a parking lot, somebody's got to pay for it. I've got to earn money to pay to the landlord. The landlord's got to be able to pay a vendor. It's all part of an ecosystem. And when the ecosystem starts to break down, that's where you start having economic decline. And I think that our city has been through that for a long, long time. And I'm really hopeful that we're at a turning point here. The stabilization of the water system is a big part of that. I'm sure we can get into that. But let me just pause at this point to say the Wesleyan challenge, I think, for all of us is to try to find our place. And I am in the business of hospitality. And hospitality to me is not just to you, Ricky, as the customer. It is also to Ricardo, who is the line cook at Bravo, that I need to show hospitality to both of you in order to be able to provide the service that I really need to provide to this community, which is jobs, health, divertisement, and economic development.
Yeah, it's funny that you said about Ricardo. We often said in the companies that I led, especially earlier in my career, that internal customers are more important than external customers. So if we can treat each other like customers, that the reverberating impact of that's going to be that you're going to satisfy customers externally. But if you don't do that, you'll eventually pay the piper because something's going to get out of kilter. It's interesting what you said about you being a Democrat but pro-business. And, you heard what I said about Medicaid expansion. I've talked to a lot of my Republican friends that say the state of Mississippi's got to really tackle this. What I have found, and me coming from media and coming from the newspaper business and then digital media business and having had responsibility for real large companies later in my career, is that I got to see the evolution. And a lot about the evolution is good because it gives tools in people's hands where they can get information. The smartphone, you think about the smartphone wasn't introduced by Steve Jobs until 2007, after Hurricane Katrina. You've kind of used that as a wow. And then what it did to unleash the power of one, everyone now can be a reporter. And so there's a lot of good that comes from that. The ability to be able to feed into that phone tremendous information. What I don't like about it is this, and this is the way I'll say it, and you can add to it whatever you want to. We do live in a polarized world, but what I find in my conversations, whether it be here on the show, which I've had over 900 conversations since we started this show over 3 years ago, and whether it just be in social media or the friends and family that surround me, what I find is that the majority of people I talk to are center right or center left. Yeah. The truth is that's what you're center left, I'm center right, but we're somewhere relatively moderate in the middle, and I believe most Mississippians are are there. And what social media tries to do is it tries to divide us. And it can happen very easily because that's the way the algorithms are set up. The algorithms are set up to create engagement. When there's engagement, they make more money. And the way they create engagement is oftentimes around negativity, because that's obviously the things that engage us. You add to that paid media that is seeking to divide us, and it's really hard. It's very, very hard these days to find the truth. That's part of the problem here, that there's too much disinformation, too much misinformation that's pushing people more and more to the polarized ends. But at the end of the day, when you set all that aside and just get into what's in the heart and mind of most Mississippians, what you find is they're either center right or they're center left. That's why most of the governor elections are oftentimes very close, because thin margins, and that that's unfortunately where we are. After Hurricane Katrina, I don't think anybody was more conservative or more Republican than Haley Barbour. You think about where he came from. But what Haley Barbour did, he asked Derek Johnson from NAACP to be on the executive committee for the Governor's Commission after the storm. He asked William Winter to serve as well. And we all came together and we said, look, we're going to put politics aside and we're going to address the recovery effort in a way that is unprecedented. And I had the pleasure of writing the foreword to his book about the storm. And what you see there is a really incredible bipartisan effort, non-political effort that really led to one of the most important recoveries that we've ever had before. This is the approach that we need to use on Medicaid expansion or on healthcare in Mississippi, on many other issues in Mississippi. When we come back on the other side,
transferable to everything. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll continue to have that part of the conversation when we get on the other side as we continue our conversation with Jeff Good, restaurant entrepreneur and owner in Jackson. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show. I have my friend Jeff Good. He's an entrepreneur, restaurant entrepreneur and owner in Jackson. And if you were to look at his pedigree from the work that he's done in the community, it would literally take the rest of this show for me to read it to you. It's that impressive. So this is the guy who puts his money and his energy where his mouth is. He leads by example, and he's not necessarily looking for attention as it relates to that. But I mean, he's one of many that I have on this show that said, look, I'm gonna have success. If I have success in my life, I'm going to give back to the community. I'm going to find ways to fill gaps and contribute my leadership. One of the things that I mentioned, John Harrison, the CEO of Hancock Whitney, who was on my show, maybe it was last week or the week before. And one of the things he said early on, he and I worked deeply in the community after Hurricane Katrina and even before the storm. So we've been engaged in the community for a long time. But he said, someone just doesn't get active in the community and become chairman of a business council or a chamber or whatever. They have to flex muscles. They have to go volunteer for that effort and learn what they can about that organization, then go over here and do the same thing. And what happens, we hope that the snowballing effect of those opportunities to learn teaches them a lot about diversity. Diversity is not always about the color of our skin, but right. To me, it's about the diversity of thought and where people are coming from, and really understanding what empathy is, which is literally thinking about what it would be like to walk a mile on someone else's feet.
Well, Ricky, think about when you're talking about your outdoor show and also where you live. Look at when we talk about diversity. Look at the two worlds that you live in. You go from a coastal community to Chula, Mississippi.
Yeah.
I mean that is as far and as broad as two different worlds could be, and it has everything to do with sense of place and culture, environment, all of these things. I mean, we really get caught up, and many times need to be sensitive to this, but we really get caught up in the jingoism of it all, as opposed to maybe we all are different, and that is kind of what's cool. I've tried to build my management team from a rope built of many different strands of thread, different race, different background experiences, different genders. I do really well with female managers. I tend to have more of a female emotional approach to things. So we oftentimes, I'm a male that works well with females. They also hold me accountable. accountable pretty well.
I hear you.
But if I had a bunch of people that were, if I just promoted people that looked just like me and thought like me, we wouldn't learn much because I already know what I think. I need somebody else to tell me what I don't know to make a better decision for what we
Jeff,
need to
I
do.
actually did this. I did the same thing. I hired and promoted women often. I hired and promoted African American leaders, and I'm proud of that. I think that, you know, especially when you're at a newspaper, you really want diversity of thought. You want the makeup of our executive team. You want the makeup of our newsroom to better reflect the demographics of the community. So we really aspired to that. You never fully reached a goal, but as long as you had it as an internal goal that you were driving toward, it really did impact you in a positive way. And it was just that diversity of thought that drove you. But coming back to where we were when we went to break a second ago, I think that, you know, people would view what you and I are having here as more of a political conversation. I think too often we have a political conversation in this state. Too often we are polarizing. And I understand there's we're in a government, governor race as we speak, and sort of this is a political season. But the fact is, just because it's a political season doesn't mean that problems that we have should be put on hold. I mean, we've got problems to solve, and people need to be focused on those problems. You know, I feel some sense of hope that the new speaker, Jason White, is saying the kinds of things you would hope that he would say going into we've got to be able to think about things that we normally would not talk about. He comes from a rural area. I think that's helpful. You see Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann doing the same thing. And as much as I think the most recent announcement of the governor does fall short, it's at least a step in the right direction. So let's acknowledge that, and then let's quit trying to do one-offs. Let's go in there and bite off the whole thing, get a wide variety of people involved in it, and let's, like after Hurricane Katrina, because that's what we have. We have a hurricane that's happening in the healthcare arena of Mississippi, and we've got to look at it that way. So I hope that we can start to take politics out of some of these conversations.
Well, you got to create safe spaces for everyone to be able to be heard, and then have a win. And you know what? I don't know a lot about the machination and the details behind this issue of healthcare expansion. So I'd love to talk to you a little bit about the city of Jackson and my experience with doing business here, particularly in the case of the ongoing water issues we've had here. We've talked a little bit about the population decline and the like. Let's talk about what that impact had on our utility. So anyone in Mississippi knows, and as a matter of fact, anyone in the nation and actually internationally, we happened to be traveling in Scotland last year, and I said I was from Jackson, Mississippi, and they said, "Oh, do you have the water to go with the scotch?" It was just a traumatic experience, a series of blows that happened again and again and again to the city, where the actual water production facility, which is called the O.B. Curtis plant, which is up at the Ross Barnett Reservoir. That is, we pull surface water. We pull water out of the reservoir, purify it, and then push it through a series of distribution pipes all the way to everyone's homes, all the way down to Byram. So it's an entire system for the city. Small amount of the city's on a well system in South Jackson. Everything else is on this pressurized system. Well, over the past couple decades, the pumping facility, the purification facility, and the actual innards of the actual plant went through a series of major degradations in operations. So where there used to be 6 pumps for distribution, it got down to 2 at one point. The raw water pumps, which are a couple of huge pumps that pull that water in, got down to 1. And they would have to shut it down once a day to be able to do a maintenance on it to open it back up. And during those times, the city would actually see a little fluctuation in water pressure. We wouldn't notice it. The water people knew about it because the tank system takes over. Well, what's happened over time is the tanks were never able to refill, and some of the tanks didn't work. So enter in the situation where we had the freeze. Remember the Texas utility freeze? We had that here. It brought the system down for a few weeks. We had a fire that happened on some electrical panels and brought the system down for 4 days. And then we had this past summer with the flooding incident and the overwhelming of the plant and the complete shutdown. So at that point in time, the federal government, the EPA, the Department of Justice, and the Department of Health all worked together with Governor Reeves, and they were able to hammer out a plan to have the state, and we're very thankful that the governor did what he did, stepped in and took over the facility to stabilize, triage, and then the DOJ worked out a deal with the city of Jackson for an agreement that said, we're going to take the operation of the facility and the water distribution system and place it in a third-party administrator's hands. And so a gentleman, his name is Ted Hennepin, who was on the ground working as a volunteer during all of these crises. He was here as a retired exec from the Northeast, and he was, and I guess he's like the Norelco guy. He liked the company so much he bought it, right? So he was here, and he agreed to come out of retirement and spend this next chapter of his life helping to stabilize the system here. So in the past 8 months that he's been in control, thanks to his competence, thanks to what the state did and the governor, which there's so many things we could thank Governor Reeves for, and I mean that. There was not the least of which was simply stepping in and saying the state of Mississippi is here with the full faith and credit of the state to be able to tell vendors, yes, at any cost, come fix, let's get this triaged and get it back up and running. So from that stabilization to Ted's leadership, and then the gift of the federal government assigning $600 million and the Corps of Engineers, the 70 million, and then some ARPA money, together about $750 million to be able to fix our infrastructure. And I've been to a lot of meetings where the EPA and the DOJ have held town halls. And one of the things that they're really interested in is Jackson as a test case for the nation, because where we are, others are going to follow. Infrastructure is older in a lot of communities, and a lot of communities, particularly communities that have shrunk in size, as we are, but still very significant in terms of importance and infrastructure, meaning buildings and, we're medical, government, education, we're the centerpiece for Jackson for Mississippi. They're looking to this as a model to figure out how that can be resolved in the future. I'm telling you this as a restaurateur. If you ask me, last June, how do you feel about your future aspects and your prospects in Jackson? I would say I'm incredibly, incredibly anxious. I don't know what my future is going to look like. Ask me today, and I will tell you that I am very bullish that this is not only the point of the lowest possible point in terms of stressors that our city could be at, that really this is going to be a bounce for us and that there's amazing opportunities ahead.
I love the way you said that, and it took all hands on deck, and the solution was found, and here we are. When we come back,
you know a little bit about that, Ricky. You've been through it.
Yes, I do. I sure do. Hey, listen, when we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Jeff Good. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show. I have my friend Jeff Good, who is a restaurant owner and entrepreneur in Jackson. Frankly, he's incredibly active in the community. And as we were talking about when we went to break, the water crisis in Jackson required an all-hands hit the deck sort of response, sort of like after Hurricane Katrina hit coastal Mississippi. And that's what happened. I mean, all the parties working together try to figure this out. And you've got someone in charge now that Jeff feels confident about. We're spending tremendous amount of money, over $700 million on solving this problem. And as Jeff pointed out, this is not a problem that just about every major city in America is going to be dealing with, because there are infrastructure problems everywhere. So it's good to hear you sort of sum it all up the way you did, that you feel pretty bullish about where things are. And when you don't have to worry about something like water, which literally affects every aspect of your business, it really frees you up to run your business. Tell me, how's your business doing?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. Yeah, it's I am in the restaurant business. I need water. If I can't wash my hands, I can't do food. I'm really blessed. April 7 of next year will be the 30th anniversary for Bravo, and these businesses. My dear friend from high school, that senior year, that 1 year I was at Murrah High, I met Dan Blumenthal, and he and I stayed friends. He was the best man in our wedding. Debbie's in my wedding. We stayed friends. And when we were in our late 20s, I was a computer salesman. He was a chef in San Francisco. We had a late night conversation one night where we my company was bought by AT&T, and we were going to shut down. There wasn't a lot of prospects for me, so I was worried, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. He wasn't very happy where he was, and so we started talking about opening a restaurant. And he and his younger brother and I started Bravo. We raised money. We tried to get a bank loan. They laughed at us. We didn't have any money to back that up. So we raised money by talking to business people, understanding how they raised money for real estate projects. We created a limited partnership, which is like an LLC. I prospected 750 people face to face. I fed 250 people in my house in little dinner parties of 8 to 10 people to sample our food. And we got 44 people to invest $10,000 apiece in 1993 to open in 94. That gift of those 44 people that believed in our business has carried forward to Broad Street and to Sal and Mookie's. And what we have created is an ecosystem of restaurants in Jackson that provide what I feel is best-in-class food in each segment. Bravo is an upscale Italian restaurant, but very comfortable. And we have an exposed kitchen, which 30 years ago was insane. You put the kitchen in the middle of the dining room, have cooks out there. What are you doing? It's a really interesting and fun environment. Broad Street is a retail bakery. We make croissant, brioche, scones, Danish, breads, desserts, and have a whole slew of sandwiches and soup, salad, quiche, melted sandwiches, the whole bit. And Sal and Mookie's is a classic New York-style pizzeria. Big 18-inch pies, classic old-school appetizers like fried ravioli, fried hand-cut mozzarella cheese, best chicken wings in the market. I'm lucky to do that, and we do real food. We take raw product, we prep it, we then place it on we assemble it, we place it on your plate, and we serve you authentic, real food. It's not coming from a bag. It's not coming from a big bowl that you pour out. And I'm trying to bring along people to have a respect for that and respect for the service industry and respect for hospitality and the gift we give when a customer has a birthday party for their kids at Sal and Mookie's, or there's a wedding anniversary or an engagement at Bravo. And when an office has a big catering gig, we did 3,000 sandwiches for Alcorn last week. Absolutely unbelievable. Delivered them to Lorman. Unbelievable execution. So for me, business is extraordinary as long as I can keep doing this. I'm 60 years old. I'm youthful because I moisturize and I eat good food. But I'm going to stay at this I have no plans of doing anything but this, Ricky. And yeah. I love it. And I've been in finalizing for those in the market listening today that live up in Madison. The Madison Sal and Mookie's is not my restaurant. The Madison Sal and Mookie's is a license. It's a franchise. Two of my best managers, they came up through our business, a couple, they wanted to have their own restaurant. We helped them put that together. They raised their own money from investors. They're killing it. In your market, we're very sad that the Sal and Mookie's in Biloxi closed, but the Lacey's, a wonderful couple that started that 7 years ago, as their lives move forward, they realized that they wanted to do something different. And so that, I believe, is morphing into a new concept there that someone else has. And that's all part of life. We all come at this. But I had a wonderful experience coming down to Biloxi and working with them. They're great folks. And I'm just very thankful to have got to know that market the way I did. So I'm very bullish for Jackson. I'm extremely thankful for our industry. And I'm hopeful that the whole macroeconomic climate, the concerns of some form of recession and the like, it seems like the nation is settling down, and I think that we'll have a good run here.
Well, listen, Jeff, it's been a blast for me to get to know you better. I've heard great things about you. And the opportunity to really get to see what's in your heart and soul, to see your drive. I love the term dogged determination, because whether you're involved in the community or whether you're involved in your business, that's what it takes to be successful in life. And look, this will be the first of many conversations that we have. We'll check back in with you in a month or two and just see how you're doing.
Well, I'm expecting to get an invitation on that bay boat. I can't.
You bet. Well, I'd love to take you fishing for sure.
Invite yourself over to someone's house for dinner.
This has been Jeff Good, the restaurant entrepreneur from Jackson, and it's been a pleasure to spend some time with him and you. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.